Hello and welcome back, and welcome to another video from the Marketing Study Guide. In this video I want to have a look at probably the most famous perceptual map ever made, which was Steve Jobs' iPhone launch back in 2007. As part of his launch he came up with a perceptual map. I will show it to you now.
Kind of make a business school 101 graph of the smart axis and the easy to use axis. Phones, regular cell phones, are kind of right there. They're not so smart, and they're not so easy to use. But smartphones are definitely a little smarter, but they actually are harder to use. They're really complicated. Just for the basic stuff, people have a hard time figuring out how to use them. Well, we don't want to do either one of these things. What we want to do is make a leapfrog product that is way smarter than any mobile device has ever been, and super easy to use. This is what iPhone is, okay?
Okay, as we can see, he used the map as part of his Apple iPhone launch, the very first iPhone. And it's this one here, as we saw: smart, not so smart, easy to use, hard to use. My purpose of this video is to review that perceptual map and work out what was good about it and what was perhaps concerning or could be improved. Okay, let's go through. Pluses. This is a very effective form of communication. He was able to describe very simply in a quick perceptual map, this is where we are going. Here are our competitors, here are the cell phones, this is how we're going to be differentiated. It was fantastic, very clear communication. Within seconds, everybody got the sense of that. Now, if you've sat through business presentations, perhaps marketing presentations, and they pile with charts and tables, and sometimes it's so confusing that there's just too much. This cuts through, very simple, very straightforward. So a big tick on communication. The second thing is it gives a very clear sense of differentiation. We've got big gaps between their competitors and their generic competitors of cell phones at the time, because this is 2007. So it highlights how we're going to be different, and it stands out on that basis. He's picked two attributes where it's important to the consumer and it's going to stand out. So a big tick on how differentiation has been communicated as well. Relevant attributes, I just touched on that. Now, in any perceptual map, we need to pick out attributes that are important to the consumer. They want that in their product. And B is going to help them choose between brands. So we want to make sure that these are decision-making attributes. They're sometimes called determinant attributes. So again, we've got obviously ease of use, which is the centerpiece of Apple. So that seems to be a smart, a sensible attribute. And of course, being smart, as in the capabilities, the technology, the ability of the phone to do things. So a tick there. Then I've got internal guidance. Now this was presented at the launch, but was probably used internally from time to time to help guide new product team, marketing people, whoever is involved in this project. And there's a great biography about Steve Jobs where they go through and explain the Apple iPhone launch, and it didn't go as, not the launch, but the development didn't go as smoothly as expected, and there was a lot of do-overs and reworks in that. So it's an interesting book to have a look at if you have a chance. But this is an excellent diagram or visual representation of what we are trying to achieve. So when we're sitting in meetings thinking about product features and communication and price points and how we're going to go out to the marketplace, is a great planning tool, because this is where we want to end up. Okay, very simple, but there's a lot of decisions sitting under those two attributes that have to be executed. The design of the phone, the functionality of the phone, all flows the way through. And of course, we've positioned up here, so that gives us the ability to price premium, certain retail channels that we wanted to use, how we're going to present the product, packaging. Lots of ticks. Okay, let's now look at the negatives. What I would point out from a marketing perspective or an analyst perspective. First, it's an exaggerated one. We have huge differences. We've just lumped all these competitors together. Obviously, cell phones were little bit dated, but they were a big part of the market. And they're all down here and we're up here. Okay, so it's over-exaggerating. Obviously, that's relating to communication. It's trying to help the communication. But this probably does not reflect reality. Some of the competitors would have been scattered around these points rather than all being shoved down the bottom of being really hard to use. Some of them were probably reasonably easy to use at that time. Secondly, these two things are interconnected. It's a management-based view. So this is not based on perception. Obviously, this was a new product at the time and consumers didn't know anything about it. These are existing products and consumers would have had perceptions of them. But this is based on management views. This is more of a strategic positioning map rather than a perceptual map. So this is what we are trying to do. Okay, so it's a viewpoint from management. This is where we want to end up. This is a future. Once we come to market, this will rethink it. So if we go back a year to 2006, before the iPhone, then we would have a completely different map because the perceptions of these brands would scatter. What happens, this superior product comes in and then pushes or repositions those products down, all those brands down. So it's based on management, not consumers. But when you think about the purpose, setting, guiding strategy, communicating internally, externally, it makes sense why it was done that way. So what it doesn't measure is perception of consumers, but what it gives is positioning goals. So this becomes a positioning map rather than a perceptual map. This is a strategic approach. Finally, it's too ambitious. I've got the footnote here, but it's Apple. I would suggest that for virtually every company, and we're talking less than, more than 99%, this is a bad approach, bad strategy, because we are coming into a market where established players are, established competitors. We are new. Apple was new. They had a joint venture with Motorola at the time, or before that with the iTunes phone, but they were just a strategic partner. They hadn't made their own phone at that point. So they're coming in, they're walking into a market. Hey, we've never done this before. You guys have been here for years. You guys know what you're doing. But we're coming in and we're going to leapfrog you so bad that you're going to be smashed down here and we're going to be number one, tick, 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 and nobody's ever going to see anything like it. Most companies could not pull this off. Most companies, if you're entering an established market, still it was growing, but it was established, we have to be selective. We cannot be so ambitious. The reason Apple was able to do it, obviously they had a large company, they had resources, they had designers, they had the iPod at the time, which was a stepping stone, and they were determined to make this work, and obviously they had the profile of Steve Jobs and a lot of loyal customers. So there's reasons they were able to do this and most businesses wouldn't. So in the overall assessment, this would be the big negative for virtually every company. So hopefully that was helpful for you from your marketing perspective. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel.